Hello and welcome back, or as I should say, welcome me back, because I've been gone for about a month, and I can only apologize for that, but it has been a crazy last month. Just to give you a quick breakdown of what's going on, if you look at the background behind me, I've actually changed apartments, okay? So that took a lot of time. I'm also going through a job transition. That's taking a lot of time. And lastly, I hurt myself while changing apartments, and so I have a boot and a cast on, and I'm walking around in crutches. I have turf toe, for those of you who don't know what that is. It's essentially rupturing the ligaments in the bottom of your foot, and so I'm in a lot of pain, but it's okay. I'm still here to make rock content. I'm gonna be here because I literally can't walk and go anywhere else. So for the end of the year, so don't worry guys, I'm gonna be pumping out the content for you. But as you know, Resident Inf main here, new commander came out, Ragnar Prime. We're gonna dive into the kit today. Does he replace Guan? Does Guan survive, or does he actually replace William Wallace? We're gonna figure it out. All right, well, here we have it. So it's Ragnar Lodbrok. This is a prime version of a commander that we already have in the game that ironically wasn't released too long ago, but it is what it is. So this is a infantry, versatility, and skill tree commander, which is also a little strange because you're kind of thinking that infantry are going down that smite damage path, and so this is a skill damage commander, and there are a few reasons why I think that they're doing this. One, they're going to keep players guessing. They don't want people to completely abandon the skill and the wedge formation for what they've already been working on with like the Guan skip pairing. Additionally, something that you might not have known is that this commander is also coming out with a new KVK, and this KVK allows Ragnar to essentially be used as any commander type. So this can be an archer commander, a infantry commander, or a cav commander. Honestly, it might even be siege. I'm not sure. It doesn't say ranged skill damage or ranged normal damage, but it says that it can be any commander. We'll have to see in the testing. But all that said, this commander is going to be super versatile in that KVK, and in that sense, definitely a must invest. But you know, as an infantry commander, we'll talk through it a little bit more. So first skill, Raven's Call. It's AoE, so you're off to a good start. Rage cost of 1000, deals direct damage, and direct damage, reminder, is skill damage, to up to 3 enemy troops in a fan. And I believe this fan is 180, kind of like the Ethelfled skill. And then the current target of this commander's troop take additional damage every second for the next 2 seconds, damage factor of 300. So that's another 600. So you're looking at 2600 damage factor if you include the additional damage. Next up, we have Ride the Whale Road, which is really hilarious because the only people who are going to be able to invest in this commander are the ones who either did not invest in the new archer or are gigantic whales and somehow have enough gold heads to max a new commander every 3 weeks. So either way, I'm sure that there's some backstory to the Whale Road. You know, it's Vikings, it's the whales, it's the, I don't know, it's the sea, right? So I'm sure that there's some backstory there, but it is just kind of funny how it's named. And so this commander's troop gain 40% defense, 10% march speed, and if it is only infantry troops, it takes 10% less normal damage. So this is a strong skill. Infantry gear already has a ton of defense as is, so more defense is maybe not the absolute best, but I'd say it's still better than attack. 10% march speed is a little bit low for what you're looking for, right? You're looking at Skippy with 25%, you're looking at Alex with 30%. You know, all these commanders, Liu Qi, I believe, has 15 or 20%, so a little bit on the slow end, but shouldn't kill this commander by any means. So, solid stat skill. The Sea King. So this is really cool. I misread this when I first saw this, but it actually is more relevant than I thought. So if this commander is in a field troop, meaning it's not in a rally, it's not in a garrison, it is a field march, whenever it launches or it is hit with a basic attack, it has a 30% chance to drain the enemy's attack by 20% and march speed by 30% for 2 seconds. So two things. When I first read this, I thought that it was only when it gets hit with a basic attack. Turns out that even when it launches a basic attack, combo attack, just saying, even when it launches an attack, it has this chance to trigger, which you're basically slowing down your target and giving you more damage while reducing the damage that they deal. There's also no internal cooldown on this, so I'm not sure if it can proc on one turn and then proc on the next turn, right? At the 30% chance, it's not entirely improbable. This is the same rate that Dagger procs, the same rate that Mora's Web procs, so this is essentially kind of a strong stat swing. And when you're pairing it, and I'm not trying to spoil too much, but when you pair this commander with a commander that might do some combo damage, the odds of this triggering go up, and it's pretty strong. So I do like the skill. It's not like super broken, but I think that in the right scenario, it can actually be fairly strong when you are sticking to one target and they're trying to run away. You're reducing their march speed, as long as you have all those other commanders which are providing slows, right? So really, really cool skill. In Odin's Hall. So if this commander is in a field troop, so all we know for now is that this commander is not going to be good in a rally garrison. There are way too many troops that are, or there are way too many skills that are required to be a field troop. So let's just leave it at that. Their troop takes 25% less skill damage. That's a significant amount. 25% is a lot. And then every time their troop's rage reaches 70%, it gains 15% bonus to skill damage dealt for 4 seconds. So when you guys are in KVK and fighting, 4 seconds is not that long. 70% of your rage bar means you're probably looking at 2 more turns before your active skill fires off anyway. That's if you're in combat. So most likely this 15% bonus to skill damage dealt for 4 seconds will only occur on the primary commander's active skill. Just in practice. Maybe when you are sitting there dueling a target, right, it might go off on the secondary because you're generating a little bit more rage, and additionally you are, in combat for that whole time. But a lot of times in the open field, you're hitting something, you're falling back, you're hitting something and falling back. So I don't actually love this skill too much. It's not super relevant to me, but I think the 25% less skill damage and let's say 15% bonus to your primary commander's active skill, let's just say it that way. Lastly, we have the expertise. And so this is where I think some people might have not read this clearly, because this is actually a significant damage increase over the original active skill. So they increased the damage factor to 2200 instead of just 2k. And now all troops hit by this skill take additional damage every second for the next 2 seconds, damage factor of 300. So you're looking at 600 damage factor additional on top of that 2200 additional damage factor. So this active skill is actually going to be pumping quite a lot of damage. So let's hop in game and kind of think about the pairings, and also like what talents am I going to use? This is like a skill tree additional damage. Well, I don't know. Let's figure it out. And here we are. And so the elephant in the room is, unironically, does Guan Yu finally get benched? And I think that's where we're at this point. Like, okay, so Guan was supposed to get benched with William Wallace. It wasn't. He's been hanging on by a thread. Does he remain? Well, let's kind of go over it. So if you were to bench Guan, which I'm saying is a possibility, you would run Scipio Prime as the primary, and then you would run the new Ragnar as the secondary. The support tree is really, really strong. You get a bunch of the rage, and obviously that 30% health debuff fires, and then that secondary skill from Ragnar fires with the AoE on the same targets. It's really, really good. And honestly, if these stats were higher, Skippy Prime is the most complete commander in the game. It's just kind of like you lose a little bit of value here on the expertise because you are losing that Guan. So that takes me into flirting with the idea that, wait, maybe you don't bench Guan, maybe you bench William Wallace. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be screaming at me for that one. My past William Wallace video was kind of met with a lot of controversy because I told people that William Wallace wasn't actually that good. He wasn't really a large upgrade, if an upgrade at all, to Alexander the Great as a secondary to Liu Che. And now I'm calling for William Wallace's head over Guan Yu's head. So when we think about the synergy, right, between Liu Che and William Wallace, it's very obvious. The only problem is that William Wallace is a single target smite damage commander. Additionally, it really has no debuffs. So you're walking around, it's just an amplifier for Liu Che. This commander skill, Line of the North, also didn't work as intended, at least from a content creator point of view, right? This reads, it'll increase the damage of smite damage that you deal with a damage factor over 1,000. This really only applies to one target, even when you are hitting AoE. So this really wasn't that good, but this isn't a William Wallace video. This is a Ragnar Prime video. So what would the commander pairings be in these two hypothetical situations? So you could either run your Liu Che with William Wallace, or your Liu Che with Alex, and then you never invested in a William Wallace, and then you could run Skippy Prime with your Ragnar Prime. So that's your two commander pairings. Or hear me out, you keep the Guan Skippy, and then you run Ragnar Prime primary with Liu Che secondary. So why do I say this? One, the combo attack from Liu Che obviously helps that third skill on Ragnar, which is another debuff to the enemy, march speed to yourself. Also, that 40% march speed on the active skill will stack with a 30% march speed debuff on the passive skill from Ragnar. You are literally going to be making people actual molasses on the field. It's going to be pretty pretty impressive. Now, they don't have that synergy of smite damage and skill damage, but neither does Alex, right? And everybody loves pairing the Liu Che Alex combo together, and neither does Skippy Prime. And those commander pairings still work. So it puts you in a little bit of an awkward scenario where you're kind of benching the synergy, but there's other synergy there, and the AoE is just kind of too hard to let go. So if we were to run that combination or that variation of combinations, then what would the talents actually be for the Ragnar Prime primary? And so this is where we have an infantry, versatility, and skill damage commander on Sargon. Now, you're never going to use Sargon in the field. Please don't. It was my worst investment. But as far as the talents go, let's hop in here. So I actually made a Ragnar Liu talent build, and this is unironically what it would look like. We're going to be skipping quite a lot of the skill damage amplification in the bottom right part of the tree here. And that is because, like I said, Ragnar Prime is a skill damage commander, and Liu Che is a smite damage commander. So all this amplification on the secondary active skill does absolutely nothing for Liu Che as the secondary. But we come up here, we get the skill damage taken reduction, we get the rejuvenate, obviously, and then, guys, it is finally latent power's time to shine. So this is 6% more additional damage of all types. Ragnar Prime, on his expertise, does 600 damage factor of additional damage. At least this is how I'm assuming that this works. I mean, we'll see. Testing needs to be done. But 600 damage factor of additional damage to 3 targets for every active skill. So I think that latent power will trigger and will work here. And then the rest, just super easy. You just fulfill the infantry. You get more slows. So like I'm telling you, this is going to be a ridiculously crippling march. And then you just get all the stats in the infantry. So that's how I would run it. Personally, I think that is this commander a straight up one-on-one comparison better than Guan Yu? I think that it might trade a little bit better, right? When we go to the second skills, obviously this skill does nothing for the open field, so we're just going to count this skill as Guan Yu's relic, which is 10% defense and 5% attack. Really, really bad skill. Okay, so one-on-one, skill number 2 is better for the Ragnar Prime. Skill number 3, 30% attack and 50% march speed. We'll compare this to the stat stick of Ragnar Prime, which is that 40% defense and 10% march speed, and then 10% more normal damage reduction. So that is another W for the Ragnar Prime. And then we've got this skill, which on Guan Yu does 1400 damage factor in most scenarios at a 50% chance. So you're looking at, an average of 700 damage factor additional on your target. And, we can kind of compare this to the expertise of the Ragnar Prime. So the expertise of Ragnar Prime is adding 1800 damage factor. So clearly this is doing more than that as well. And then we'll compare this skill to the last skill on Ragnar Prime, not the expertise, but the one that gives a little bit of skill damage taken reduction, as well as a slight damage increase to your skill damage, because they are kind of similar. And honestly, I would say that the 25% less skill damage taken is better than 15% skill damage sometimes when you have, a shield. And then obviously the march speed on Guan Yu is nice, but it's not really super relevant for the open field. The main thing that you're benching Guan for would be the AoE. So will I say that Ragnar Prime is a better commander than Guan Yu? Yes, I will. I do think that it'll trade better in the open field, but really the question now becomes, what is a better commander, Guan Yu or William Wallace? And that's where I think the William Wallace will actually hit the bench here. I know it's crazy. We'll actually hit the bench here with this new commander coming out in the game. So I think that the new commander pairings, without any testing being done, okay? So I could very easily be wrong. I think the new commander pairings for the open field are he still survives. Guan Yu with Skippy, and then Ragnar Prime with Liu Che secondary. And that's it. That's my hot take. So I think that that's going to be how it's going to be run. Now, I could be completely wrong, right? Disclaimer, haven't been tested. This is just kind of what I'm theorizing. I haven't been a big William Wallace fan for a while, and I know that Liu Che William Wallace and that Liu Che Alex combination are fantastic in the field, guys. I understand that, but Liu Che is the engine that makes that run, not the other two commanders. And I think that if you're just including all this extra damage factor on the AoE, you're including that crippling slow and then that leash ability of the attack, I really think that this commander pairing is going to work well. I mean, the combo attacks just work super, super well. You're also getting that rejuvenate for a little bit more rage, even though you don't necessarily need it as much with the Liu Che. I I just think it's going to be good. You are losing out a little bit on that attack tree, but the attack tree is a little bit less valuable when you're pairing with skill damage commanders anyway, with like Alex, for example. So I think that this commander is most likely going to be an upgrade to Alex. So I'll just throw it out there like that. Now on the flip side, we are registered for KVK. It's going to be my first Tides of War ever. Should be really fun. We are going to be in, I think, starting like the very first day of November. We're going to be in the KVK map, something along those lines. And then I actually am going through my job transition still, as I've been mentioning, and I'll actually have no work, no 9 to 5 for the majority of that late November. So ideally, you know, past 5 might be a little difficult for me, but as soon as past 7, past 8 and Kingsland hits, I'm going to be streaming all that action. You guys know me. We're a big, 12-hour stream family here. So I hope you guys do tune in and yeah, be on the lookout for some more content. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a good evening, morning, afternoon, good night, wherever you are, and take care. Peace.